Scott Emerson, pitching coach of the Oakland Athletics turned golf professional now in North Carolina. Emo, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I am doing phenomenal. So far, what do you think of our baseball playoffs? What have been some observations that you have had?
Well, like you guys, I just joined a second ago talking about starting pitching. I saw a stat that had the Rangers, the Astros, the Diamondbacks, and the Phillies had the best starting pitching in the playoffs. And I wanted to write that down and say no duh, because starting pitching is where the game always starts, right? So they got to go out there and they got to keep the game close as long as possible to hand it over to those good bullpens. So the games have been, fairly exciting. From what I'm watching, it's really hard sometimes to watch some games when you want to be a part of those games. And but sometimes it's really exciting also to sit down and watch a couple games and think about what we got to do to be one of those teams again.
I don't want you to question fellow personnel in big league baseball. That's not fair. But I just want to throw a scenario at you. When you're taking a starter out early, and I mean early, and let's say a guy's not struggling. Let's say the guy's actually throwing pretty well, and you take a guy out really early. As a pitching coach, how dicey is it to where now you're relying on your bullpen and a lot of different guys to cover 7 or 6 innings? What is that like for you as a pitching coach when you take that starter out dramatically that early in a postseason game?
Yeah, when you take starting pitchers out early, every single member of that bullpen has to pitch good. You get 1 or 2 hiccups out of 1 or 2 guys, then you could be behind in that game. For me, the game should be played the same in the postseason as it was in the regular season. There might be a little bit more where your bullpen gets backed up a little bit. Let's just say you're the home team and you're losing in the 9th inning. You may send out your closer in game 1, keep the game close and see what happens with your offense in the bottom of the 9th, knowing that the next day he can pitch 1 inning again and then have that 3rd day off. So your off days play an important role. Each guy, they should be, your bullpen guys should be able to go back-to-back days. But, your matchup sheets, everybody has a matchup sheet now, and we're looking at the data and we're understanding the data. We're not taking guys out of games because of pitch count. We're taking guys out of games because the data does show that 3rd time through, the offensive guy has a better advantage. So now you got to play that with the scoreboard. Now you're looking, okay, is it worth taking this starter a 3rd time through, or is it worth going to your bullpen who's fresh on a 3rd time through? The numbers don't lie. They do tell you 3rd time through on most starting pitchers is the worst time for a starting pitcher. Now, what do you want? You want really good starting pitchers who can go that 3rd and 4th time through. You want horses. And when you're looking at playoff baseball in general, each team has 3 horses. And that's what we're trying to develop, in our organization with our guys. We talk about it in our post-game reviews the next day. Are you a playoff pitcher? What can you do to get us to be a playoff pitcher? What do we need to do? And then we collaborate and we have feedback. Hey, in general, it's command the heater and throw swing and miss pitches when you're ahead. Have that ability to throw, a soft contact ball when you're behind. So, these conversations in development are what we're trying to accomplish, is build horses.
Go back on what you said earlier, where you said you want to see the team play more like the regular season, to where some people think you throw any type of strategy out and it's like, oh my God, do or die every single pitch, everything. You would still like to see the team play a little bit more like it does in the regular season.
I think you got to remember, how you got there. And, if you have a strategy throughout the regular season that wins 100 ball games, why aren't we sticking to that strategy of doing what we did that got us here? When we go and change all the time. Now, not saying there aren't times when you use an opener, or aren't times when you cut the starter down because you feel like your bullpen is better. I'm just saying, you throw out your number 1 guy, you throw out Justin Verlander and you're expecting him to go out there and pitch his game until you pull him out of the game. And then there might be your third or fourth starter where, sometimes you're going to use an opener for him. And depending on the opposing team's lineup, if you've been doing that throughout the course of the season, then by all means, you should be doing that in the playoffs. And if your number one goes out there and he's a guy that you think can go 6 and 7 and get you in position to win the game, then that should be the plan. But if you're going into a game, in my opinion, and you're changing your strategy of what you've done all season, I'm not so sure that's a great idea.
I kind of think we cracked the code this last show, and we thought about it a lot over the weekend, because a lot of these guys in now let's call them the analytics media, where they talk about how the postseason is just random. And we really broke it down and said, you know what? Actually, the regular season is more random than the postseason, because the postseason, we pare everything down. We slim everything down. You're not seeing the fourth and fifth starters. You're not seeing the back of the bullpen. You're seeing everybody's best lineup. You're not seeing the 40-man roster. You're not seeing guys come up from AAA. You're not seeing openers. You're not seeing survival. You're seeing the best starters, the best lineup, the best bullpen. That's not random to me. And then what I want you to talk about is what we're seeing now. When you're the Astros and the Rangers, you're in division together. You know everything about each other. I don't even know how much scouting reports you got to do going into this. What is it like in the playoffs? Because you did it in 2020 against the Astros down at Dodger Stadium. What's it like preparing for a division opponent in the postseason that you know?
Yeah, obviously separation is preparation, but as much as you're game planning for the opposing team is game planning for you. And each pitcher who goes out there, has a general idea of what they're trying to accomplish to each hitter, and each hitter has a general idea of what that pitcher is trying to accomplish against them. That's why execution is so important, and that's why when you throw your fastball, you got to have the ability to command your fastball, not just throw it to the zone, but go up and in. You take a guy like Alvarez. He knows a lot of left-handers are going to come in and they're going to go up and in and expand breaking balls. If you constantly expand breaking balls, he's not going to swing and you're going to walk him. You got to be able to hit that breaking ball in the up and in zone to Alvarez, and then you got to be able to kind of nibble that slider or get it down and away. We all know that execution is the key. And, when the opponent knows exactly what you're trying to do, he knows exactly what you're trying to do, then the execution part comes in. What happens is when you're trying to throw that fastball up and in, and boom, that ball leaks back towards the middle of the plate. You're trying to throw that breaking ball down and away, boom, and you leave that breaking ball close to them. And that's when you get in trouble, is mistakes. If you watch a Major League Baseball game, I wish you guys could really look at our scouting reports. And when we get beat on the lack of the execution of the pitch that we were supposed to throw. We just miss a spot and the hitters capitalize on that spot. The greatest hitters in the world, they take what you give them. And then the good hitters, they got areas of the plate that they hit really well. We know that. They know that. That's what the data is telling us. And the data also tells us is you got a guy with a riding fastball, he's probably a better matchup against this guy. You got a guy with a sinking fastball, he's probably a better matchup to this guy. So, when you're going in and you're evaluating and you're doing your reports, you're putting together a report of what your pitcher does well and what the hitter is incapable of doing. You're going to attack a hitter's weakness with a strength. If you don't have a strength that can attack that hitter's weaknesses, then you got to kind of go strength on strength. Now, for me, strength on strength, hitters are 300 hitters and they're Hall of Famers. You give them a little advantage, right? So now that's where I come right back to that execution. You got to be able to execute the game plan, what you're doing. And that's where the data really shows up, because it tells you exactly how you can pitch a guy. Now, with that being said, also just one mistake, a hanging breaking ball, a ball left close to the middle of the plate, advantage hitter, and that could cost you the ball game.
All right. This would help me so much in the postgame show when callers call up and they're angry. If you guys would allow me in your meetings, I would be able to say, listen, they had the game plan. They just didn't execute it. I saw. So how can we talk David Force and Mark Kotze letting me in?
I don't know. It's just like, well, why didn't they use such and such? How come he didn't come into the game? And maybe they don't know the guy pitched 2 days in a row and he wasn't feeling good that day, or maybe the workload the day before, or maybe they got some sort of other issue that they just come in and say, "Hey, I'm down tonight," and that happens, and it's baseball. I get everybody wants to play the Monday morning quarterback, and that's great. But most of the time, a lot of people don't have all the details of what's going on, and it's tough because everybody has an opinion, which I love. But we just got to stay positive in that next day and understand, hey, we made mistakes. And then one of my biggest things to our guys too is sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. If we make a mistake and went away from the game plan and got beat in that situation, that's discussed the next day as well. Why did we do this? What did you see to alter from the game plan? But most of the time you look, the guys are on the game plan. They just make a mistake. The ball leaks back over, or they're trying to overthrow a baseball and that ball moves back across to the arm side in the advantage of the hitter. And, like I said, when we make mistakes, the good teams, the good hitters capitalize on it. And sure, we can make plenty of mistakes and get away with it, but we always remember the mistake that we don't get, that they capitalize on.
Well, you've prepared for these teams already. You know them as well as anybody. Just talk about how tough it is when you're facing the Texas Rangers. They're 7, 8, and 9 hitters. You want to talk about length of a lineup. Their 7, 8, 9 hitters are hitting .328 with over 1,000 OPS, 11 extra base hits, 9 RBIs, and they've scored 15 runs. How tough is that as a staff when the bottom of the lineup has been as productive as the top of the lineup?
Just kind of like I said earlier, the best hitters in baseball, in my opinion, are the guys that take what you give them and they don't chase. We look at their numbers before the game and I'm like, man, this guy really doesn't swing in this count. This guy really doesn't swing in this count. He swings in this count when the ball's inside the strike zone. That's why you got to have really good dominant stuff and be able to get outs inside that strike zone, because against the really good elite teams, it's really hard to get them chasing pitches outside the strike zone. And you look at the Texas Rangers, you look at the Houston Astros, and they do that. They just don't chase that often. And it's hard to throw a put away pitch and they just kind of stand there and look at it. So now you got to go in the zone. And I think they're really good, disciplined hitters. And when they don't swing at pitches that you want them to swing at it, you've got to start getting balls closer to the zone. And then when you got a young, inexperienced staff who hasn't gone through the ringer yet, maybe those balls get a little bit more center cut than you want. And then hopefully in time, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn that over time, our guys will understand how important commanding the baseball really is, no matter what pitch you throw. Who doesn't chase outside the strike zone and who is willing to chase outside the strike zone? And if you look it up and you look at the data, the guys who don't chase, man, they're tough outs.
Tonight for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they've been such a tremendous story from a standpoint of they had to come back in both those double-digit runs they were down against the Brewers. They came back and won. And then they boat raced the Dodgers. So they've won multiple ways. They've come back and they've won convincingly. So they're a dangerous animal. But so much of what we talk about with you and what, we call you one of the best, if not the best pitching coach in baseball, that it's just not all about, we're talking about data and we're just not all talking about biomechanics. It's what's in between the ears. And I know you work so much mentally with your guys. And I just wonder, when you think about Philly is 26-11 since Citizens Bank Park opened up in the postseason. It's the number one winning percentage for a home venue ever in the history of baseball in the postseason. The place is rocking. They're on top of you. The fans are going nuts. We all know it's Philly. Philly's a tough sports town. It's a great sports town. What is it like for the pitching coach going in with let's say it's Wheeler to not Wheeler, Zach Allen tonight. What's it like talking about the atmosphere and don't let the atmosphere get to you? That's a mental thing, not a physical thing.
Yeah, the emotions are really going to fly high, right? Guys may tend to overthrow the baseball, pitch above their means, trying to get that 93-mile-an-hour fastball to beat a guy to a spot at 95 rather than stay cool, calm, and collected and poised enough to understand that putting the ball where I want it at my useful velocity that I have is important. To try to overdo something, I think that's where the guys have to go into the game and just stay cool, calm, and collected and understand that crowd is going to be really loud. And for Gallen, on the opposing team, kind of use that as your motivation as well, that, hey, they're cheering for me. They're not cheering for the Phillies. They're cheering for me. That's kind of how, I would, I tell our guys that, hey, the crowd's making noise for both of us. You know it when there's 2 strikes and the crowd stands up and they go nuts. Do they want the hitter to get out or do they want the pitcher to get the hitter out? So, that's where the mental toughness and the grit and determination for you is to be able to stay cool, calm, and collected and center that energy to just you staying focused on the task at hand. And for the pitcher, that's throwing a quality strike. And for the hitter, that's seeing a good pitch to hit.
It's the game inside the game. I mean, there's video now of certain Braves just yelling back and forth with Philly fans from the dugout, especially Arcia. I mean, it was like, what are you doing? They got like emotionally into it with the fans, and that's just, the mental side of it is just not smart. When you look at Arizona, you go up against, let's go from the Philly side. When you go up against a lineup that, they just got something going right now. They got athletic guys. Corbin Carroll obviously is off the charts. Walker is such a good player, but when you just start looking at a team that's got it, you can have all your data all you want, but what's it like when you're a pitching staff and you're going up against just a hot team where just everything is going that team's way?
Yeah, it's like, man, I'm not lucky anymore. I've been there, where I felt like, early in my career as a pitcher, I had some luck on my side. And when I started getting my brains beat in, I didn't have luck anymore. But, a lot of it is, you look at these teams that are in the playoffs, and the one word I can describe that all 4 of them have is grit. And we've talked about it, some with us, is like you got to have that determination that you are not going to lose this game. You are going to find a way to grind it out, grind your at-bats out, to throw strikes, to throw quality strikes, to execute pitches, to cover first base. And obviously this is what you want during the regular season. I think, we've always talked about what's difference in the playoffs and the regular season. In my opinion, hopefully nothing. Hopefully that your will to win game 1 of the season is the same will to win game 7. And I think if you look at the greatest athletes in the world, they have that will to beat you game 1. They have that will to beat you 162, and they have that will to beat you game 7. And they also have that will to beat you in other sports too. You go out on the golf course, Towny, me and you, I'm a
will to win, Al Davis, baby.
I'm just gonna try to work you the best I can in golf. Now I'm not any good, but I'm gonna try to kick your butt. And in ping pong, the will to win in tennis and in any sport that you have, you look at the guys, the greatest athletes, they have that will to beat you in any sport. And I think, that's what good teams do. That's what good teams have. Some teams start with 1 or 2 players, and then at the end of the day, you want to end up with the 26-man roster, your coaching staff, your front office, having that grit, having that will to win, and no excuses. Next year, I really try to tell our pitchers that, okay, no excuses next year. JP Sears, 32 starts. What an amazing accomplishment. I love it. What an amazing accomplishment for that young man. Now, okay, let's go out and let's prove that those 32 starts, we learned something. Ken Waldachuk bounced back really well. Lucas Ursig out of that bullpen, who just chiseled away at being really good. And those 3 guys just kind of stand out right now to me, and we had a lot of guys stand out. But I truly believe that that grit, that hard work, and that determination and that will to win is going to help you win a few more games.
All right. I was not going to really get into much A's. As we told you, we talk playoffs. But there is some breaking news. I don't know if you know this already. I don't want to blindside you with this, but Trevor May has announced his retirement. I'm not sure if you knew that was going to happen or not, but Trevor May, who was going to be a free agent, so you didn't know if you're going to have him anyway. But Trevor May, when you hear that, what are your first thoughts?
My first thought, what a great season that Trevor May had this year. He went out there and worked his tail off, got better as the season went on. Had his day on the disabled list for some issues, but I think Trevor did an amazing job. I kind of had an idea this was coming, and sometimes when you play as long as Trevor has, and you have family and you got kids, I get it. Money isn't probably an issue for him anymore. I think he's done a heck of a job with it, and sometimes guys just want to be close to their family and be at home and not say it's a regular life, but I've been in this game since 1992, and 8 months a year I'm not at the house, and I'm fortunate to have a great wife and who allows me to leave the house for that long and come home and have a life at home in the off season. So she says, I still love doing my baseball stuff, right? But it's not. This guy put together a great career. I believe it's over 10 plus seasons in the major leagues. What an accomplishment! So if your report is true, which is probably good because you're the best at what you do in reporting that, you and Cody, I would like to say congratulations to Trevor May on an amazing career.
Getting back to when we talk about, it's almost like you're a friend, you're a psychologist, you're a lot of different things to these guys. At the end of the year, NBC wanted me to do my top 3 things of the season. And one of my top 3 was what Trevor May went through, how he dealt with it head on, how he didn't run and hide from it, how he publicly went through it, helped a lot of people, because there's a lot of people, including people close to me, dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression. And when someone in the limelight, a professional athlete who we think these guys are bulletproof, we think these guys are Superman, and when you see someone like that going through the same things you're going through, a lot of people talked about how much Trevor talking about it really helped them. And I think about these guys that you understand, like Marcus Semien. Marcus Semien just had his 4th child during the playoffs. I mean, we don't think about these guys as human beings away from the field and not being in uniform. We think of these guys that they just show up, they play, they're these great athletes, and they make millions, and life's just perfect. And the reality is, it's not. They're dealing with a lot of stuff. They're dealing with the same stuff all of us are dealing with. They're young men. If we all remember back what it was like in our 20s and our 30s, you're dealing with stuff. Just talk about that. Not only are you worried about, are you throwing strikes? How are you throwing strikes? What's the spin rate and vertical and horizontal and all this different stuff with pitches, but you've got to help these guys because some of them are struggling off the field with real life problems.
Yeah, my sister owned a bar in Phoenix, and I got to bartend for a couple of years, and now you understand that a lot of people have some problems in the, right? I mean, you're listening to people, and as coaches, we do the exact same thing. We listen to guys, even coaches. We have some stresses in our lives as well, and we got to show up each and every day and do our job and be there for our guys. The one thing I try to do is I try to stay level keel as much as possible, even though sometimes I'm feeling stressed. I got people, there's outside people all over me as well some days. And you just got to feel like, hey, you know what? I'm doing the best job that I possibly can. And, for me, I love doing this. I love our pitchers. I love our coaching staff. I love our player development, scouting. I love the front office. I love all our people. And I feel like when I come to work, I'm just going to give it the best I can. And that's what the players are dealing with. They're trying to do the exact same thing. But like I said, some of these guys got kids, and some of these guys have, a few years ago, my mom went through a stroke in 2018 during the season, and I ended up losing both of my parents before the 19th season, and it was very stressful. Watching my dad go through his misery with my mom being in the hospital, and then all of a sudden my dad getting sick, and then now all of a sudden I'm stressing because I got both of my parents, basically on life support. And then, players go through this. Their grandmothers are sick. Their grandfathers are sick. And it's really not that easy. And then you got, people bashing them on social media for their performance sometimes. And it's a game. I like to say it's a game. It's a game that I love, but it's also a career and profession. So I try to, take the attitude as, I want to have rounded shoulders. I want things to fall off of me, the criticisms or the praise, and just come one day at a time. I learned that from Gil Patterson, our pitching coordinator. Just go in there one day at a time and battle and give it what you got. And so you're just trying to feed to those players, but you're also listening to, some of their pain that they do go through, and be there and understand that, baseball's a game, and life's a little bit different. And, it's not easy to navigate some days when you're seeing guys that you care about in agony over something, and then they got to go out there and perform. It's a big issue in not just sports, in the world today. Mental health is important to everybody. If you're needing help, you need to go get help.
Speaking of mental health, for someone like yourself and the rest of the coaching staff, it was a long year. There's no question about that. You need to unplug. We were forced to unplug. They told us, hey, take basically 2 weeks off, which we fought. And now I'm very thankful that we did, because we did our final show the day after the season, and then we took time off, which normally I don't like to take time off. I want to go right through the playoffs. But I got to tell you, after that rough season, a few days later, I felt like I'm glad I did. It was really good for me. It was good for me. It was good for me with my marriage, with my kids, kind of like reconnect a little bit more, get away from baseball. I think it's made our shows now better. Just quickly talk about yourself, because I know you want to dive back in and get better, and there's a lot of things that you study, but just how important was it for you to just let go? I'll let go.
Yeah. I mean, getting away from the game sometimes is tough for me. But I think, the one thing, about, the rough season that we talked about and have talked about, and everybody's expressed with us, is, you have to go into your work with a realistic expectations as well. And, that's the kind of approach that I started taking a little bit more of after the All-Star break. One thing I try to do is take care of a little bit more about myself and my health, getting a little bit more walks in, and getting outside a little bit more instead of being on that computer all day. I try to, get out there and get an hour walk in every day that I could. But what I mean by this is, like, okay, understand the situation that we're in, and understand that, what are we going to do moving forward. What I thought about after the All-Star break, I kind of sat down and wrote some things down and figured, okay, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. And so what am I going to do? And the one thing that I really wanted to do is just really focus on trying to get guys better, and really, focus on, they're out there working their tail off. I've said this, I've been on record of saying this, 24 years I've been coaching, and that's easily the top 3 hardest working pitching staffs I've ever had. And remember, we were in the playoffs 3 times. I've been in the playoffs 6 or 7 times in the minor leagues with a couple of championships that I love. And we're going to work our tail off to get that World Series ring back in Oakland. But what I really thought about is the process. our organization, David Forrest and Mark Casse, just, really think about your process. Really think about, are you coming here to work? Are you coming here to sulk? And the work is, I'm just going to give it what I got each and every day, along with the rest of the coaching staff, to understand that this is a Major League Baseball team. And what can we do to get guys one day better? Whether it's, the mental side, talking to them, the physical side, getting outside and doing our shadow routine, really talking about our bullpens, having good conversations with pitchers the next day after they pitched, going over their data and how they were. I think that's important to just keep that even keel. I don't really think I've wavered from being a coach for 24 years. A little bit earlier in my career, maybe I was more gung-ho on statistics and numbers, which are still important. But right now, the process is the most important thing. Getting out there, working, showing people you want to be there for them. And hopefully I did that with our pitchers, and our coaching staff did that with the rest of our players. Is let's get out there and grind. Let's work. Let's have some fun working. And, persistence to purpose leads to success. So if we're persistent in working with our guys, in the future, we're going to see that success. That success is going to come. You look at the Baltimore Orioles. They won 47 games one year. And next thing you know, 5 or 6 years later, they won 101 and they're in the playoffs. So, we want, that's where we want to be. So we're going to get there by working.
Great stuff. The first edition of Playoff Emo. I love it.
Operation Dogpile. When are we going to dogpile again? That's what, my years that we didn't really get a chance to dogpile because we kind of went into these games and we're looking up at the scoreboard, and like in the 7th inning, we find out we're in the game. Or we're in the playoffs. It'd be great to win by like 15 games and dogpile one year.
Well, I mean, you look at both the Rangers and the Orioles not that long ago were both 100-loss teams, and back in the postseason, it flips really quick.
Yeah, it's amazing how, these really good teams make the playoffs, and then like 3 days later, I'm like, man, they're sitting on the couch like I'm sitting on the couch. They worked their tails off. They won a lot of games, and at the end of the year, there's one team that wins it all. And for me, that's what I want to do. Is that I want to be that one team. And like I said earlier, persistence to purpose will lead us to success. And we got a lot of grinders, and we got a lot of guys who work hard, and that's the beauty of this organization. And I've been in this organization since 2003, and people work. And that's the one thing I really love about this organization is how hard, all the departments and everybody work. And at some point in time, we will reap the benefits of it.
I love it. We're going to get me in these meetings. I can't wait. I can't wait to the day when you look over and go, Towny, what do you think? And I go, well, coach, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, let you write some scouting reports. You can.
As a former college pitcher, back before we had all this data, we had to chart.
Yeah, you can't. You just can't say hard in, soft away, hard away, soft away.
No. Back in the day, you had to sit there when you weren't pitching, get that clipboard, and you had to chart. Curveball, breaking ball, slider, split. You had to chart the entire game. So don't put one together.
Now it's given to us immediately after the game. Boom, here it is.
Yeah, you guys are soft. We used to have to do. We had different color pens. We had highlighters. We had to do what our pitching coach wanted. You guys got all this stuff data now. We had to write this stuff.
Well, I think if you pan the camera during the game, you'll see that I have an iPad and I'm charting the game. I think it's it's not going to leave me charting. I chart what our guys are doing ahead in the count, behind the count, even in the count, matching it up with our scouting reports, whether we're on the page or whether we leaked off the page a little bit, which can happen because your scouting report's plan A. Plan B is what the opposing team is trying to do for you. And plan C is, hey, I don't have anything right now. I got to find a way to compete and battle. And, just the scouting reports are the first line of defense. It's just boom, what we see on paper, what the data is telling us to do. But, when somebody punches you in the mouth and they start flipping the script and doing something different, that's when you got to alter. And then plan C, like I said, a lot of guys go out there. You take these 32 starts from JP Sears. How many starts did he have where he went out feeling great? How many starts did he have where he didn't feel good at all? And then how many of those were marginal? And I guarantee it, of the games he felt great, he didn't win all of them, right? Or he didn't pitch good in all of those. Of the games he pitched didn't feel good at all, he probably pitched really good some of those. So, there's a lot of go out there, here's plan A, but number one plan is go out there and compete.
You remember all the paperwork a pitching coach would have back in the day that he traveled with?
Oh yeah, I still have all that stuff. Though
now you got it all on an iPad. Back in the day, a pitching coach would have all this paperwork and everything, all this charts and everything.
I still have binders in the house.
Yeah.
Though Keith Lippman, our great farm director for so many years, he made a comment to me probably like 2010 or 13. No floating paper. So that's when everything went on the computer. That's when everything goes on the iPad. Our great video coordinator, Adam Roden, every game I'm charting, he's putting in a file for me. And I got all the games I've ever charted on that iPad going all the way back to 2015 when we first started the iPad. So, or maybe it was 16, we got the iPads. And it's great because I just take notes right then and there during the game, and then we got it for later.
It's amazing. It's like the certain things technology has done. We have talked about high-speed cameras. We talk all this kind of stuff. It's made everybody's job just easier to do, and hopefully everybody getting better. All right, buddy, I'll talk to you next week. Great stuff as always, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on during the playoffs. I know our fan base is going to absolutely love it.
All right, Towny.
The great Scott Emerson,
thanks for having me.
For your Oakland Athletics right here on A's Cast Live.